Hi, my name is Brandon, and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. At one point in my active addiction, and at one of the worst points of my active addiction, I was working with someone who was basically functioning as my supervisor. And this person would regularly call into question the things that I was doing, would pile work on me, challenging tasks that in hindsight, had I been able to figure out how to take them on successfully, would have helped me grow. But in my position at that point in life, I felt like this person was unfairly targeting me, both in the tasks that they were assigning to me, as well as the way that they questioned the way that I went about doing those tasks. As a result of my perspective in this situation, I started building up these defenses, and I started to look at this person as someone I didn't like, someone who was in the wrong, and someone who had problems that they needed to fix in order for me to be happy. And that is, I think, a very classic way for many addicts and alcoholics to approach problematic situations in life. In recovery, we have to learn how to do things a little bit differently. And this came to mind when I was reading a passage out of Going to Pieces Without Falling Apart by Mark Epstein today, where he's talking about a patient of his who's coming to this similar kind of realization. And he sums it up by saying, "In coping with the world, we come to identify only with our compensatory selves and our reactive minds. We build up ourselves out of our defenses, but then come to be imprisoned by them. This leaves us feeling dissatisfied, irritable, and cut off. In our misguided attempts to become more self-assured, we tend to build up our defenses even more rather than disentangling ourselves from them." And this is exactly what happened with the person that I mentioned from work. I continued to build up defenses until the point where I got anxiety and all these negative emotions at even the thought of talking to this person. And it's been 6 years now, and still, when I end up in a meeting with this person, I'm not working with them directly anymore. But when I end up with a meeting with this person, I find my anxiety levels much higher, and I find myself very concerned that they're going to engage with me in the same way that they did in the past. And what I've realized is that I have to let go of those defenses. And the way to let go of those defenses, I think, is to really fully embrace the idea of loving everybody for what they do, and this kind of unconditional acceptance of people as they are and of situations as they are. And this came to, I was out of town this weekend at a funeral with family, and family from all over the place, all different walks of life, who all believe different things. And I was in a conversation yesterday with someone who had some very different beliefs politically than I do, and was very forceful about the way they were presenting them. And I just disagreed so much, and I really found myself getting that defensive posture again. And I think that is a leftover from the way that I used to deal with things. I used to deal with things by getting defensive and then deciding, well, I'm just not going to have this person in my life anymore. I'm going to cut this person out of my life. And that's a really horrible way to deal with the differences that make us so wonderful as a species. I mean, that's one of the great things about being human, is that we have this freedom of thought, freedom of expression. We can all believe different things and still coexist. And in fact, that's what I would argue is one of the great accomplishments of human beings, if we can get ourselves to do it, is to learn how to live and love each other in and coexist while still maintaining our individual beliefs and thoughts and things like that. And so, when I found myself getting defensive about what was being discussed with this person, I knew immediately that this was going against what I had been trying to practice in my program of recovery. But I found it very hard to let go. And it was fitting that this passage came up this morning, because I feel that I need to do a better job of accepting all people and their beliefs as what they are. It doesn't mean I have to agree with them, and it doesn't mean that I have to think they're right. That there's a big difference between accepting that they're there and agreeing that they're right. There are some beliefs that people have, for instance, racism, intolerance. Those beliefs that I think, while I accept that they are there, I do not believe they should be tolerated. That being said, I do think that there's something to be said for maintaining, as much as possible, an unconditional love for all people as we try to come to some kind of common ground in what we believe. Because by trying to maintain that in myself, then it becomes easier for me to not build up these defenses that Epstein was talking about in this passage. As soon as I can keep these defenses down, then I think my ability to actually implement some change in the world starts to increase. Because as soon as I get my defenses up and start to isolate, my ability to influence the world around me starts to get diminished. As soon as I start to cut people out of my life, as soon as I start to say, I'm not going to deal with that person because they don't think the same thing as me, then I start to isolate. I start to go into my own little hole. I start to think the world is against me, and I start to build up feelings of self-pity. I start to build up all these things that were such driving forces in my addiction. And so it's complicated, it's tough, because a lot of us will look at other beliefs, especially some beliefs and some thoughts that are very disturbing, and the tendency is to say, I'm going to cut this person off. I'm not going to have this person in my life. But I've had some examples recently that really helped me understand that no, it's really important to respect that other people have different thoughts than I do, and that's okay. That I can still extend love to these people without building up defenses around myself, and in fact that it's building up those defenses that's what causes the pain in me. And that's the point that I wanted to make today. I kind of went off on a tangent, but that's the point I wanted to make today, is that all the pain that I felt when I was working with that person who was supposed to be my supervisor, all the pain that I felt, that wasn't her causing the pain. That was me. And the pain that I feel when someone expresses a feeling or a thought or a belief that goes against my own beliefs, that's not their problem. That's my problem. And it's not that they need to change or that I need to cut them out of my life. It's that I need to open myself up a little bit more and be a little bit more loving and accepting of the world around me as it is, rather than demanding it to be what I want it to be or what I think it should be. So that's it for today. A little bit of a ramble, but I'll be back here tomorrow with more. In the meantime, have a good one.